And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Abroad Show, Monday, the 1st of April, 2024. It's not a joke. None of you are fools. This is a real show. I'm here, and I've got Ed back with me. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Good to be here on an Easter Monday. Did you pull an April Fool's that people should be concerned about?
You know, I've done it often. I think last year I don't think I did it, but I have done it a couple of times. I've done the old hey guys, just to let you know, BA will be closing. Look, it's been a great ride, blah, blah, blah. But this year I just thought I'll just watch everybody else do the April Fools. I'll stay out of it this year.
Well, the Almost Blues brothers put something up and they got me a beauty. I must have spent about five minutes writing this really sincere, oh, lads, it's been an incredible ride and whatnot. And then I realised it was a joke. I had to delete this comment. But yeah, I got done by that.
Yeah. No, it was, well, we got a report about Sam Walsh training today from Chloe Williams, and I posted it genuinely not as an April Fool. It just so happened that he's back in full training on April Fool's Day. So that ended up being good news. Sam Walsh back in full training. That's exactly what we want to hear.
Very good news. And I think it was Pommy that said in the post game, sometimes he forgets that Sam Walsh has to come into this side, and I'm much the same. It's like, oh, that's right. We haven't been playing with basically our best midfielder, and there's obviously going to be a discussion when he's ready, which is still probably a few weeks away. Who makes way for him, and you know, what role does he play straight off the bat? He's shown that he's got an ability to come in and basically be at his top level almost immediately. Yeah. So pretty exciting. And if you look at the fixture without getting too far ahead of ourselves, he should be coming in for what is arguably a more difficult run of games that begins in a few weeks. And that's that couldn't be more timely. So yeah, pleased that wasn't an April Fool's joke for sure.
Yeah, no, indeed. So a nice big night ahead of us all. The Almost Blues brothers will be on straight after this for those watching at home. Who have we got here? Jay and the usuals are always here early. Want to give them a bit of a shout out. Says Jimmy, really the usual rascals here at the start before the show begins. Brandon, yeah, I've seen a few of the North supporters blame the umpires. You know what, mate? Let them go. But I think they should be more concerned that when Callum Coleman-Jones did his Achilles, not one of their teammates went up and gave him a little pat, but 3 or 4 of the Carlton boys did.
That was right in front of me, and it was good to see from our boys, wasn't it? Like it was a real sign of sportsmanship. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't like they weren't trying to make a big thing of it. Just clearly one of, a peer, if you will, a fellow AFL player, clearly going through something pretty tough, and they made their way over to it. But yeah, no North Melbourne players did. It could have just been where their huddle was and whatnot. But it was good to see our boys get over. Yeah,
I found it bizarre. I thought I saw it on the night. Then when I watched the replay earlier today, I saw it again, and I mean they did huddle away from Coleman-Jones, but there was really strange. And yeah, Gokhan, I think it kind of shows a bit of the culture. I think when you're in that early stage of your development, you can sometimes fall into selfishness and worry about yourself. And obviously they were losing by quite a bit, but nice touch from the Carlton boys, bit of respect shown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you contrast that with, I forget the young fellow's name from Richmond who did his ACL two weeks ago, and basically their whole team got around him before he left the ground. So yeah, look, maybe willing to chalk that down to it just happened to be that the huddle was in the middle, but certainly would love to see our boys get around somebody if that happened to one of our players.
Yeah, absolutely. G'day, Jason. Oh, g'day to my papu. This is my grandfather. He's tuning in live on Facebook. Amazing. Yasu papu. All right, so let's start, everyone. We'll start by talking about Friday, all the themes and issues. We'll get some votes out. We'll talk about some things that I picked up in terms of issues. We're going to look at maybe some overall trends that might be emerging over the first few weeks. And we'll move into Freo and gather around on Saturday, and also have a bit of a look at the Carlton Reserve. So, Ed, while everybody else in the chat, we haven't done this for a few weeks, actually. I've been a bit rusty. So, Ed, we'll let you take the floor with Friday. In the meantime, ladies and gents in the chat, 3 words to summarize round 3.
Thanks, Terry. Well, I think before we go into the particulars of the game, it's worth noting that these are the type of games that, as Carlton supporters, we have yearned for a very long time. Like when we're really bad, I used to imagine, geez, I wonder what it would be like coming to the footy and knowing there's a good chance we'll be in the game. Then when we're in the game, I used to think, I wonder what it'll be like coming to the footy knowing you're probably going to win. And now, not only are we probably going to win, we're probably going to win well. And we went and did that. 9.5 goal wins, even if there were elements of it that weren't exactly what we want to see. To basically not basically, we led at every change. We increased the margin at every change. Our big guns played really well, like our superstars up forward and our midfielders played well. I don't really know what more you could ask for in terms of a final result on a game where we know the opposition are plucky, and we know for them it's almost like their biggest game of the year. So they can sort of be up for it. And Terry, I don't know about you, but it was pleasing that the first 10 minutes or so was pretty scrappy, and I think they kicked 3 goals and we had 1 on the board at one stage. And then all of a sudden the pressure just went up and we kicked the next 4. And at quarter time, we're in front by 16 points, I believe it was, after starting somewhat slowly. So it was just nice that we sort of put our foot down and said, no. This is not going to be one of those games where an opposition that we're clearly better than hangs around and gives us the shits. Instead, we're going to put them to bed and put them to bed early. And not that we had it put to bed at quarter time, but I thought the last 15 minutes of the first quarter was really powerful, and we potentially should have been ahead by a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the 27 first quarter tackles told a bit of the story about the mentality going into the game. I mean, us as fans, a lot of the sentiment before the game was put them away early. If you let a team like this in for too long in a game and start giving them belief that they can win, they might. And we maybe even saw that with Richmond. Maybe that's another issue, but I don't know if Richmond are actually good or not. But
it's hard to know at this stage, isn't it? Like what they did yesterday was pretty reasonable. So that maybe our win last week against Richmond isn't what people think it is.
Yeah. So that was pleasing. I mean, North, it was just, they were always going to start as fast as they possibly could. They played exactly how I thought they would. Fearless, young, bold, but ultimately just struggling in defense. And, you win by 56. And to be fair, you probably still got to iron out quite a few more issues with the way the team's performing and the way we're moving the ball and the efficiency. And maybe some of these turnovers get punished a little bit more against the better side. So you win by 56, you get the 4 points. You got plenty more to work on, and you just collect them and, away we go to the next little phase of this season. And, I don't know about you, but it feels like this is it now. We've had a couple of games in. We're well and truly in the thick of it. Everyone's got some K's in the legs, and this is it. We're away.
Yeah, and this is the start you want. 3-0, and there's good signs with some clear room for improvement. And I guess on that room for improvement, something that I'm confident will pick up is that the backline, which last year, particularly when we got going in the second half of the year, just is a little bit more fumbly and not being as clean as I think they can be. And I absolutely love this player. So this is, nothing against him, but I just feel like Nick Newman is somebody who, with ball in hand, usually I just feel like no doubt that this next possession will end with a Carlton mark, and he just hasn't been hitting targets as often. Jordan Boyd perhaps hasn't been as clean as I thought he might be coming into the season. So that's like, it's fair to say that we haven't had the most settled backline, given that we brought in 2 key position players for this game. But I think we'll see some improvement in terms of how they structure up. And it was obviously great to have Weitering back. How did you see his game?
I liked how he summarized it in the post game, because I felt he was. We spoke about it on the ratings last night with Pommy, but we saw that early on he seemed to decide to be spoiling a lot more than what he usually would be going up for those marks when he's playing confidently. And Weitering himself acknowledged that, and he just sort of said, I didn't want to come in and take away from what the other boys have been doing, just play a role. So I think for a first up game, knowing he's missed however much he's missed, what was it, 8 or 9 weeks in the end, solid enough. You could tell very early stages, I think both he and Marchbank were just at half a step off the pace of when the ball was coming in, but they worked themselves into the game pretty well. Marchbank obviously goes off with concussion in the 4th, but I mean, ultimately, I think our team defense is anchored with around Weitering. We can funnel the ball into the middle of the ground and really set it up for him to impact the ball in the air, or McGovern. And I think what I'm still unsure of, and it's a shame that Marchbank got hurt, what's the right mix? The cohesion between Marchie and Weitering is strong. And then on the other end, it's like, well, you've got a young guy in Kemp who's really starting to emerge. And, that's going to be the discussion point, I would assume, over this week. Like, what's the right mix of defenders? The key defenders, the one-on-one defenders, and the intercept defenders.
Yeah, it's going to be a question that to a degree, I hope plagues us all year, as in all of them are in form. So it's really difficult to decide who's, what mix is appropriate. I will say about Marchbank, I think to see his best, he needs to be given a really consistent run of games. I thought he started to really play well towards the back end of our run last year. And actually in the preliminary final against Brisbane, I thought he was really excellent in some difficult conditions, especially after quarter time. I know we're going to speak about what Brodie Kemp did in the VFL later, but my gut right now says if they're all fit and they're all playing to their ability, the backs are Weitering, Marchbank, and McGovern. They're the 3 talls. And then Kemp, if there's a role for him in the team, it's potentially as a third tall forward, a third marking option, given that we don't have Jack Silvani. But I'm sending us down a bit of a rabbit hole there. But that's how I feel about the back line and the talls.
I think it's an inevitable rabbit hole that we'll get to tonight.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I did touch on ball use just now. That's something you've really highlighted pretty much since we started talking to you. Like, how are you watching the evolution of what we're trying to do with ball in hand?
Yeah, I love the way that we attack the corridor. Like, I think that is what really powerful and dangerous teams do. They attack the corridor, and we have to be okay that there's going to be mistakes. And when you go down through the corridor, that means it's high pressure when you have the ball, like the opposition is going to be protecting the corridor. I have always, particularly when we were out of form last year, thought that one of our major problems was the final kick into the forward line. And just the quality of that kick, whether it be to somebody on a lead or whether it be, kick it long to a contest, it still can be, there's more intelligent versions of that kick than others. You kick it wide to the point post. That doesn't give anyone a chance, but kick it 20 meters out, Harry and Charlie can fly. I think we saw some great examples of how it can be done on Friday. And then there were other examples that were a little bit sloppy. Harry's in some form. And he is just finding some brilliant positions. And every time he goes for the ball, it just looks like he's just going to outreach and out-bustle everyone. He's starting to use that big body of his. I know he sort of looks lanky, but he'd have to weigh a ton, or at least a little bit over. In general, I think it's improving, but I still would like to see a little bit more polish into the forward 50, because if you don't have that, it can slingshot out of there. And that's what happened. That's what's happened in all 3 games, actually. I feel like in the Brisbane game, in the first half, it was coming out of the forward line too easily due to poor entry. And I actually think North got some really nice run and carry through the middle of the ground at times as well, due to us turning it over sort of on that sort of half-forward flank position.
Well, just on our entries and the ball use, in the ratings last night, there were a few players that were highlighted for their marks inside 50 and inside 50s. And I sort of had a look at it. I don't know if 3 games is enough of a sample size, but we enter the ball inside 50 58.7 times a game, and we take 10.7 marks a game. I looked at that straight away. I'm like, all right, 1 in 5 is a mark. If that's 2.5 in 5, immediately you're generating more quality looks, you would assume,
Sure.
and
Yep.
and that's where it seems positive. You're still winning by 9 goals. You're still not using the ball as efficiently as you can inside 50, and clean that up. You get a lot better.
Yeah, and you can often, I felt like I could see what we're trying to do. I do like the idea of the short hit up kick, whether it be 20, 25 meters to the person 35 meters out rather than always just bombing it long. So I think that's just something we just have to not necessarily be patient. Well, I guess it is be patient with. Like we've got to make sure we get it to the right players to do that. Like I mean, I think there was one that was right in front of me, and it was Adam Chera, and he just drilled it to Harry. It barely went above head height, and I sort of thought, yeah, that's the template. That's exactly the type of entry that we want. Like a quality player has it in their hands, and it wasn't a particularly hard kick, but it was a kick that was such high quality that it basically made it impossible to defend. If we can get it into Chera's hands. Elijah Hollins, I feel like he's a really nice kick. If he can be taking that final kick, yeah, I think we'll get more looks at it.
Yeah. One other thing on Friday was the Good Friday appeal. It was the Super Clash, and we did say on the fan cams that there was an announcement for how much had been raised. And if you haven't been on social media, if you don't have social media, if you haven't seen, but the Cheer Squad, in association with Cripsy and that fundraiser, raised $20,000 for the Good Friday appeal. So I thought that was a nice little tick as well.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And I thought everything that goes with that game and is done around the Good Friday appeal, it's just done really well by both clubs. It's really classy. I thought what was done before the ball was bounced, the teams running out together, or the teams, doing the guard of honor for the kids. And just the way both sets of players seem to be interacting with those kids, it's really genuine, and there's a real sense of understanding that they should use their platform as AFL players for good. And yeah, it sort of makes you proud, doesn't it, as a Carlton supporter, that's the type of players and people and supporters that we have around the club that donate to an appeal like this.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's do some votes. Let's give away some votes. So chat. Put your votes in the comments. Ed, you can kick us off with your 1, 2, and 3, or 3, 2, 1, however you like.
Yeah. I always get a bit nervous about this. Just if I forget someone, I feel awful.
Well, that's why we'll also do an unsung hero, just in case.
Just in case. Okay, good. 1 Chera, 2 Cripps, 3 Harry. Just what Harry did early in the game, when the game still had some bite in it, I think that's a match-winning performance as far as I'm concerned. I could go on and on about Patrick Cripps and still feel like we're underrating him. And yeah, again, Chera for what he did in the first half and perhaps the first half of the third quarter, just thought that was the class we needed.
Mine were very similar to you. I had Hewitt for the 1, Cripps the 2, and Harry the 3. I mean, I don't know if it's fair to say that the game was already won in the second half, and maybe it was a bit of junk time. But I thought in the first half, when there was the most heat on the game, I thought Chera or Hewitt could have had that one. Just their attack on the ball. Yeah, I mean, we've got guys playing their roles. Harry's playing with some kind of force. He's sharp.
Awesome.
He's focused. He's just, you can tell he's playing with a real purpose and a point to prove to himself or whoever it is. But there definitely seems to be a lot more of a laser sharp focus about him at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And just some small things about his game that they're not small, sorry, but just some things he added. I feel like he looks pretty comfortable in the ruck when he's going in there and he's being productive. It's not just sort of a token. Like, honestly, when Cripper goes up for the ruck, or Kennedy even, I'm like, oh God, what are we doing? It doesn't feel like that with Harry. It feels like he's actually got a chance of helping out. He took some really good defensive marks, or I don't know if you call them defensive, but on the wing towards the end of the first quarter, and it just really great to see him get up the ground. And then I know this sounds really strange, but he actually missed a shot, which is fine. Forwards are going to miss shot. He's not going to only kick goals all years, and it didn't seem to bother him. Like he took his next shot with just as much confidence as he's been taking them, and he put it through. So I feel like he's in a really strong place mentally to deal with any challenges that he gets. And if they both fire, God, it's pretty hard to stop.
Yeah. Well, the thing I forgot about Harry when talking about Harry in the ruck is he's very quick for a guy his size.
He is. Yep.
Might be one of the quickest off the mark. He can create space. He's got pretty solid footwork to dance his way around traffic and also create some space and some, with his quick first step. So he may lose a ruck contest, but he's got an ability to tackle, which is a tick, and he's got an ability to grab the ball and at least, at the bare minimum, get a handball out or impact the play and not just be there just for the sake of being in the ruck and giving Tom a break. So that's going to develop. It was probably one of the biggest fears for a lot of us, maybe last year and the year before and before that, when the concept of maybe Harry could play some minutes in the ruck. But that narrative's quickly changing.
Yeah, it is. And again, I don't want to leap too far ahead, but it feels like it is part of the discussion around, hey, does Pittonet come in? Because it's not like we're leaving it just to De Koning now. He's obviously the central ruckman, but Harry can provide that support and, can not that you would obviously think about exchanging Harry for Pittonet at all, but obviously some of the things we're talking about that Harry provides that you just talked about, Pittonet doesn't provide them. So, he had a really good game in the VFL. It's a great problem to have, but it's what is the right mix there?
What about an unsung hero? What about a guy you just want to give some love? Someone who maybe, didn't feature in the top 6 or 7 for votes, probably won't feature in the coaches' votes, but you thought he played his role pretty well.
Oh, I don't know if it fits the bill, but I wouldn't want to not mention Elijah Hollins. I just thought he added a heap of energy, and he's got a skill set which is really important for us. And it was like, not that this is important to winning games, but he definitely has a connection with his brother out in the field. Like, him and his brother kept trying to give it to each other, which was just fantastic. And I felt he worked his way nicely into the game. There was a few fumbles in the first quarter or so, but just thought he was a great contributor. So I don't know if he's unsung, hey, because he's getting talked about a fair bit, but he'd be the bloke I'd go to. How about you?
Yeah. I was going to say Fogarty, but he's been pretty well covered in the chat, so I'm going to change it to TDK. I think what we're starting to see is we've gone from, young Tom with an experienced Pitto on the list, and Tom's just not ready. And then it was 50-50 Tom and Pitto, take your pick every week. And I think we're starting to watch Tom emerge. And I think for the profile of the list, when Tom's the clear number one, if and when Tom is the clear number one, and Pitto is not needed to play every game, but be part of the squad that will ultimately lead us forward. It's a really good spot to be in, because only a few years ago we still weren't sure. Tom wasn't quite ready. He had a few moments in games, few patches, but just not ready to take the mantle. We're missing out a little bit on hit outs to advantage and things like that, but we're gaining essentially almost an extra midfielder at Stoppage. It's like watching Cruiser play almost. He's starting to add that element to his game. And that's just, I think, what we lose potentially in hitouts to advantage compared to what we gain to his work around the ground. And his presence now, like Tom De Koning, and the word presence is now starting to emerge. Another good sign. And it's just, it's kudos to the whole group that helps develop him.
Yeah, that's a great shout. I think his form, like you said, we're only 3 games in, so it's difficult to sort of call things yet. But his form across the 3 games has made it really clear that he's ready to take on that. You call it the leadership position that the ruck sort of is, and just be really physical in there. Look, the hitouts to advantage. It's interesting because in the third quarter, out of the centre, he was putting it down people's throats, and we were streaming away from the center. But then there were definitely some times when it felt like they had the advantage out of the center. So guess the next string to his bow is, okay, I'm getting beaten right now. How do I just make it a 0-0 draw? And then when things are going our way, he's a weapon.
He does seem to have this ability to rise when the moment needs it. And that's a nice trait to have. Not everyone has that, but it seems the more tense the situation gets, the more he thrives off it, which I don't know if he's always had that. Maybe he has. He used to rise sometimes to the occasion against bigger ruckmen, and they take time, but he's in the sweet spot, or the beginning of his sweet spot. So,
yep.
Yeah, he's coming along nicely, big Tommy.
Agreed. And he hits the scoreboard, like he hits the scoreboard enough for it to feel like he can contribute there. You know, he can. I'm happy for him to have a shot on the 50 type thing, and I don't know if I feel that way about Pitto. So that's another string to his bow.
Yeah. Well, I think we might. Was there anything else from Friday that on your mind you think that you want to raise before we move on from it?
No, just I just had a quiet think about. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a difficult selection either this week or in a few weeks, especially around the small forwards. Like you think that Motlop, Cunningham, and Martin are sort of. I probably want all of them in our team in form, but that's just not how it's going to be. So Elijah Hollands now looks like, it's just going to be really difficult, and it's exciting to have that problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the AFL website here. And on the injury list there, because I don't see anything different on the Carlton website, and nothing new's come through unless it has in the last 20 minutes. Jack Martin is listed as 1 week away on the AFL website. Take that for what it is. Maybe it's just not completely true.
That was listed a week ago, or we can expect him this week or next week.
Updated March 26th. So yeah, I guess
that would be this week.
Might be available for selection. It says here Walsh 2 to 3 weeks. So again, that we'll see how that one plays out. But if we want to go to, maybe we will move to what's happening in the reserves. I looked at 3 players in the reserves. They did lose, but these were interesting numbers and an interesting performance from these 3 players individually. So Cincotta plays a bit more of a midfield role, 25 touches, 6 clearances, 5 tackles. Brody Kemp plays a half in the back line, a half in the forward line, 19 disposals, 8 marks, and a goal. Pitto, I had to double take when I read this.
Me too. Yeah.
25 possessions, 19 hitouts, 12 clearances, and a goal. Maybe we'll start with Kemp and go down the rabbit hole there. So plays a little bit of forward. Maybe this is just part of the story of Brody Kemp's development. We love him and we like what he brings, but he still is quite early in his career. So
he is.
It's not the worst idea to keep developing him in the twos when you need it. But how are you watching Brody Kemp and where you think he should play, could play, and will play?
God, first of all, I feel like players like this are in really, really good sides, and that is like a classic sort of swing player with good marking ability and some nice skills. I feel like almost like I know I'm going back a few years, like the Adam Hunters in the West Coast team. Like just you can put them where you might need them to be. I especially with Sauce down, I think it could be really worth seeing what he's like as a forward at AFL level now that he's found his confidence. It's about a year since he came back into the team and held his spot for some time now. I think it was the West Coast game last year, the first one, where we brought him back in and he sort of looked like he belonged. A lot in the short term though, and I'm sorry if I should know this. So Marchbank entered concussion protocols, didn't he? So he's definitely out for this week.
Definitely out for this week.
So I think we back him in to come back in straight away and play a backline role. And should the game call for it, given the success that we saw last week at VFL level, if he wants to swing forward, we know that he's got that skill set. As a finished product, like I said before, I think Marchbank, McGovern, Weitering is our tall backs, and then Kemp is that sort of Adam Hunter that might float back as a spare man sometimes and then might go forward and kick 1 or 2 a game. But it's easy to forget that he's only really been part of the side for 22 games in terms of a consistent contributor. It sort of feels like he's been there a lot longer. So, yeah, God, I don't even know if I answered any of your question, Terry. I think that's the nature of it.
I agree. I think he'll come back this week. I feel like having him in that mix with Marchbank out and Kemp in means we have to shuffle the way McGovern plays. It means we have to shuffle the way some of the others play. Kemp has to play a little bit more of a taller role. I mean, this week in particular, you're talking about Jai Amos, Tracy.
Yep.
I'm missing one. Taberner as their tallest.
Taberner is
you know, and Jackson whenever he rests there. Thank goodness there's no Darcy, because that would mean we're probably stretched a little bit more.
Yeah, well, they've been playing Jackson in the ruck to great effect, and I think they've got problems of their own in terms of what they do with Sean Darcy and Jackson, because Jackson's a much better ruckman than he is forward, but Darcy seems to be able to only ruck. But look, that's their problem. Who cares about them? I think the right mix this week is McGovern, Weitering, and Kemp in the back line. Yeah. And then look, a huge test for Tom against Jackson. But I think in the short term, I think let's at AFL level until Marchbank finds his feet, Kemp plays back when he's in, and then it would be nice to experiment with him up forward.
Yeah, Kemp is taller than what I seem him to be. Marchbank is 193, Kemp 192. So we're not losing that much in height. I think we're just losing more experience.
I'm so surprised by that. I'm sure it's correct, but it just feels like Marchbank just plays so much taller, or at least he runs like a taller person, whereas Kemp looks like a middle-sized player.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of those guys in the league. I think Mitch Owens is a lot bigger than what he looks on TV. Jai Amos is 196. I didn't know that until I heard about it today. And Kemp also fits the bill for that. So,
yeah, I mean, he could be anything really. Then, like he's got really nice skills, reads it well, and he just needs to get the games in. He just needs to get to the 70, 80 game mark to potentially fulfill that. What we think he could be.
And then Pitto, for all the talk about him doing nothing around the ground, it's pretty handy to have a backup ruckman, which is that what it is assumed that he has slowly started to become for us now that Tom's here. And if it is, it's pretty handy to have a backup ruckman putting up 25 touches in a game. I
just can't. I can't see it, and I mean that with all respect to Pitto, but 25 touches, like. I almost did this before coming on, but I thought it would be a bit rude. I almost Googled how many touches he had for the year combined last year and wanted to see if it was 25 at AFL level, because he's not the type of bloke that gets a lot of the pill. It's fantastic. For me, it's still no change. It's great to have him there. When he comes in, Pitto, his role is going to be incredibly physical with the opposition ruckman and throw his weight about. And the good thing about that role, and he does it really fairly, is that you actually don't really need to find that much form or that much touch to have that role. So if we decide that we want to bring Pitto in the last few games of the season because we want him in finals for that role, I think that's something we could do. I mean, God, again, I'm showing my age here. Like, I think it was Clark Keating just used to come in for Brisbane during the finals in the early 2000s. He could almost fulfill that role. Just like finals footy is physical, and we need people like that. I think we'll play him earlier in the season than that, but right now, it's great to see him in form. It's still no change for me around the ruck.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I think also, it's 3 games. Tom's been solid for us. At some point in the next, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks, he's going to be sore, and
agreed.
Have the ability to just rest him potentially for a game to prevent something more serious coming down the track, I think is a good sign. It's probably something in hindsight we didn't really get to do with Cruiser. We threw him straight in from day dot, and that was what it was. So we get to protect Tom a bit more now.
Yeah, and I have no doubt. He just sort of seems like a great person to have around the club, Pitto. That I have no doubt that if that's what's asked of him, hey, we need you to cover this week because we're going to rest Tom, or Tom needs to sit forward a little bit more. He'll come in and he'll give it absolutely everything and do a really good job. He's a great clubman. So yeah, it's a good position. Again, another great position to be in.
So zooming out, 3 games. What do you like? What do you dislike? What do we need to clean up? What are some of the things you're noticing that may be a bit different?
Can I give you my favorite like right now?
Yeah.
And then I'll flick to you for a like, and then I'll think about my dislikes. My favorite like is definitely the pressure that we're bringing, and the amount of scores that we're generating from that pressure. I know that the stat that's been talked about a little bit from us is scores from turnover, and how we're getting really good scores from turnover. I think that's going to be really important against some good sides. So yesterday, watching the Richmond Sydney game, Sydney are a really skillful team. They like to take it through the middle. If we're going to beat a Sydney, our pressure's going to have to be as good as it's been, and maybe then some. And then when we turn it over, we're going to have to score. And I think we've been doing that really well. And perhaps we haven't been great at that in the past, scoring from those turnovers. So that's my number one right now, just as a general theme for the team.
I am liking, the extra layer that I'm watching, that we're clearly adding to what we do. But I think what I'm liking is, well, the question before the year started was, you made a prelim, you had a really good year in 23. What's your intensity and your connection with one another going to be like the year after that? Because it could be very reasonable and not surprising for a team who hadn't been in the finals for so long to make it as far as they did and maybe drop off a little bit. But I don't think we've seen that. And if anything, we look to be, again, it is 3 games, but we do look to be hungrier and collectively. And there's just seemingly a bigger resolve about the group, and it's come back. And where I'm seeing it this early in the season. So, obviously coming down from 46 to beat Brisbane, grinding out a win against the Tigers, who just, scrapped it. And then going into North, where you're expected to win. You're expected to win by 40 plus externally, and to still do it. It's what I do like.
Yeah, I guess a new team which is up and coming, the pressure of expectation is new to that team that experiences that, and it seems like we're now at a level where we just are simply accepting that pressure and are handling it quite well. And you probably wouldn't have said that about, well, certainly not about us in 2022, and not about us in the first half of 2023. But then we started handling it, and it looks like we've stayed hungry and willing to accept that pressure over the preseason. So, yeah, great call on that. I was meant to think about what I'm disliking, or
whether it's a dislike or whether it's just, got to clean that up pretty soon.
Yeah, I knew that Weitering coming back in would provide that anchor point to the backline that we were missing in round 1 and 2, and I think he definitely did, but I still think there's some work to be done tidying that up. Just exiting the back line a little bit scrappier than what we did last year. There's a lot of, like, we didn't really discuss Chincotta from the VFL, who had a really good game, but I wonder what is the best mix down there of all those sort of small defending players. I mean, there's some names that are just brilliant. Like, okay, so Sard, Williams, Boyd, Newman, Chincotta. What is the best mix, and how should it look going forward, and what can we expect? There's still a question mark for me on that. I think we're going to figure it out, but I just don't know if we've got it right just yet.
Funnily enough, I think our stoppage work can improve by quite some bit. Is it? I don't know if it's just one of those parts of the development of the group where you're seeing better scores from turnover. Therefore, is that a positioning thing behind the ball, and therefore you're taking away a little bit from your clearance dominance or your stoppage dominance for that? I'm not concerned about the stoppage dominance because I think that can be. I think they've done enough to prove that they're pretty good at it.
It's a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just we've been beaten at a thing that we're so clearly is a strength by teams that I don't think people associate it with being a strength for them. Like Richmond beat us at clearances, and I don't know what the numbers were on the weekend, but whatever they were, they were more competitive in clearances than I think we were expecting. Have we got the right mix of players in there?
Well, probably. Well, we definitely don't have the best.
That's right.
Available. We definitely don't have the best available. We do have players that are playing now that are important because you need a squad to win a flag. You probably need 30 blokes that could play any given week, no question asked, and you don't have to worry about what their output's going to be. So
that's so true.
I get it. Like I understand we're a little weakened at in certain areas, but to be honest, it's hard to not like much.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be too picky. Like I said, these are the times that I've yearned for. I mean, 2 years ago, we went 3-0, and I was celebrating, and now it just sort of feels, oh yeah, that's what we do. Like we haven't dropped a game yet, and I expect us to win this week. Like this is the team we are now, and just so happy that that's the way it is.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I said this, I don't know when I said it, last week at some point. I have noticed that even with us, the fans, 2022 we're 3-0. It was party time. It was
bedlam.
It was party time. It was the first time we'd seen it in so long. And you look back on it now, you're like, oh, okay, we got excited way too early, but for good reason. We were waiting for. I think that's how low the bar was. To be fair.
I don't regret celebrating that hard. Well, I think the third win was, I think we beat Hawthorn by a point at the G. Yeah. I was hugging strangers, like it was just, it was so exciting. And, I was really pleased on Friday, but sort of, okay, who's next? Like that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we're getting mature as a fan base as well. And then when we touch on the stoppages in the clearance battle, as we turn the focus to Freo this Saturday. So it's gather round Saturday, 4:20 at Adelaide Oval, I believe it is. It is. Let me just triple check that.
They're making me question myself.
No, I trust you. Yeah, it is Adelaide Oval. So 4:20 p.m. Adelaide Oval against the Dockers. I just did a preview earlier today with Druzy, who's a YouTuber, big Freo fan, great fella. And I asked him, like, what's the Freo story? Because, with respect, I missed their game on Friday against the Crows, and I've watched a couple of their others, but I don't really have a grasp on them. And he said, they're similar to us. Like their stoppage work, their clearance work, the pressure, that's what they pride themselves on. So we're going to get a nice test, not just next week, but the next 3 weeks. 3 solid teams who are going to test us, and maybe all these numbers that we've thrown out tonight will have a little bit more context put next to them.
Yeah, it's I think it's actually the perfect opposition for us to get an understanding of where things are at. That they're undefeated, we're undefeated. They probably feel like they've got a point to prove after a really disappointing year last year, and there's a fair bit of hype about them in the media. I think it was Lee Matthews last night who even said, like, if Fife starts playing well, like they're a flag chance. And I don't know if I would go that far yet, but this game has, even though we're a different team, and I'd suggest they're a different team, it's got some eerie similarities to the position we were in last year when we went to gather round and we played Adelaide. We were undefeated at that point. I think we played one more game at that point, so we're 3 plus the draw. There was a lot of hype about Adelaide. There's not as much hype about Freo, but there's a little bit of hype. It's gather round. We're going to a venue that we haven't won at, and we're favourite to win, like we were last year. And I'm just looking forward to seeing how we'll handle all that. There's some pretty key matchups, and I think none more so maybe than how Tom and Luke Jackson face up with each other. But also the form of their backline. I think their captain Alex Pearce is in red hot form, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a bigger challenge for Harry and Charlie than it was this week. With much respect. Interestingly, I know Charlie. I don't know where he is in the Coleman, but I know he's pretty high up there, and he's. I still don't feel like he's hit his straps. I feel like he's in third gear. So that excites me. I feel like he's ready for a big game soon. And maybe Saturday is it.
I agree with that. He's just not as much of a one-touch forward yet. It's improved. It looked a little bit better on Friday, but yeah. Whereas Harry's got a laserness to him. Like it's super sharp.
Charlie's just been a little bit clumsy, and I'm not concerned about this, but it happened right in front of me. So I got 2 or 3 examples of them flying at the same footy, and a few times I felt like, that was actually Harry's footy, and Charlie, being Charlie, just flies, which is great. You want them, you prefer that than neither of them going, but excitingly, I still think they can actually work better as a combo, and they both look good up the ground. So it's not a matter of one has to go up the ground and one stays deep. Like, I think they can interchange who's doing that. I hope Saturday's the day where Charlie really, really has a big one.
Yeah, no doubt they'll be more tested. Pearce is in super form. Luke Ryan's that next defender for them. I think Freo's back in general. Back 6 pretty solid. Aish has had a pretty good start to the year. Hayden Young, when he plays there, he's more of a midfielder now, but when he plays there, they've got some real drive off the back. But just to confirm, I've got the Coleman race up. So Hogan's first on 12.
Yeah.
Harry is equal with Bailey Fritsch in second on 11. And then Charlie's sitting in third, or if you call that fourth, on 10, with Stringer on 10. So doesn't mean bad. It's just
it's a pretty good output from to have 2 of the top 4 goal kickers. That's what we want. But it just watching him, I feel like he could be a bit cleaner. So
yeah. It's pretty unfair to have 2 Coleman medalists in a forward line, isn't it?
Well, I mean, at one point, didn't we had the Coleman medalist and we had the Brownlow medalist in the same year, and we didn't make finals. So I don't know what you want to glean from that, but
True. We had the back-to-back. We had the 21, the 22 Coleman, and the Brownlow medalists in a year, and still missed out. So
yeah.
Basically, we're winning the flag. That's
what that equals. That's the equation. I'll be interested to see if what changes we make this week. Like I know that the teams will come out and it's a little bit early in the week, but it kind of feels early in the week, but there's less days with footy. There's less days without footy now than there is with footy. We had Thursday till Monday footy, and we got footy again on Thursday. So it's only Tuesday, Wednesday without footy at the moment. But I wonder if they feel like Motlop should be coming in. I'm just fascinated to see what we do at team selection.
Hey, Sayaf, welcome back to membership, mate. Holland season, he says. Thank you. The other variable, which we're probably not going to know, we might get an update in the next day or two, is Patrick Cripps. So, the baby is due this week. So I think we were told that he was going to potentially fly up later than the team to make the game. But I mean, I don't have kids, but I would assume I would assume that a due date could always be extended. The baby may take a little longer, so it's a watch this space for Cripps.
Yeah, I don't want to get cancelled by saying anything on this show, Terry. I don't know. I know there's examples of both. I know there's examples of players definitely missing games, and I think grand finals to be with their partners when they give birth. And then I know there's I don't know why I remember this, but I remember Sav Rocker was in the middle of playing a game when his wife gave birth, and they told him while he was on the bench. Like, they went and told us, your wife's given birth, and then he just breaks down on the bench, and they say, "Get back out there, mate!" And he went and kicked a few more goals. So look, whatever Cripper decides to do, fully support him as a supporter, and just hope it all goes well.
Well, mate, Chin Cotter in the midfield, ready to take a spot.
Sure. Yeah, we've got next man up type mentality, so that's fine.
Yeah, or Pitto with his 25 touches in the VFL.
Yeah, but not rucking. Just Tom in the ruck and Pitto at the feet. Funny.
Other than that, I mean, they're probably Marchie's the only one that I think will come out, obviously, and then Cripps if necessary. I did notice from watching the replay, McGovern took quite a few knocks, and I don't know how his body will come up.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. He took one. I think his shoulder was really hurting sometime in the second quarter, and then he went and played on. So maybe that's okay. But yeah, it's, with much respect to Mitch, he'd almost be due, wouldn't he, for a week off with the way that he sort of has shown that his body just doesn't quite hold up to the rigors of a full season. If we get 16 to 18 games from him in the season proper, that would probably be about right.
Yeah. And then the other one was Charlie, who rolled the ankle late. And I mean, it didn't look too bad. He seemed pretty smiley and willing to go back on. I always think with Charlie, well, anyone really, you roll an ankle, depending on how bad it is, it may have trickle-down effects later on. Most knees go, a lot of knees end up going because of unstable ankles.
Yeah.
So I'm just cautious of that. But, I mean, good luck telling Charlie not to play this week.
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't expect them to say anything different to what they did, do you? But, I mean, Voss said in the presser that it was a matter of if, there was only 4 minutes left and should it have been different? Oh, not 4 minutes. There was a little bit longer, but should the circumstances have been different, he was going to run back out there and he wanted to, and then they decided not to let it happen. So I just guess you're back in the medical staff. He hasn't missed for a while, Charlie. He's been really healthy since he's come back over the last few years, and yeah, just hope he gets up.
Yeah, touch wood.
Someone's just said Charlie and Gov both looked okay at training. That's good news.
Yes. Well, that is great news. Well, yeah, we said at the top of the show, Sam Walsh was back in full training. Motlop was, from what I read on Twitter, he was on the sidelines doing a modified program. I think Martin was in that group as well. So, you going up on Saturday? You heading up to Adelaide?
I am not at this stage, but I'm not ruling out a late flight or maybe even a late drive. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, at this stage, I'm pretty much exactly the same. I'm staying here. I'm going to watch it from home and then come straight into the studio for post-game fan cams. But I do have, and if you are good enough to be watching this show 53 minutes in, you will be the first people to know that there will be a giveaway for a ticket to the game this week. So if you are in Adelaide and you're watching, or if you are going to Adelaide and you haven't been able to find a ticket yet, stay tuned because I do have a ticket to give away. Details will be up on the channel / the Instagram / the Facebook account this week. I should have probably asked you before the show aired. I could have just given it to you, mate.
Well, I'm not a guarantee yet, but don't be surprised if I call you at 1 a.m. Saturday morning and yell road trip, and then you and me are just heading up to Adelaide together.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing as well I've noticed. Some of you get to, usually 2 to 3 people by 48 hours outside of a game will message me and say, hey, I'm giving away a ticket. I can't make it for whatever reason. So if that is you, feel free to message me on Instagram. I would prefer to do, I've done every week so far, a free ticket transfer, which is very generous for those giving away their tickets for free. When it comes to selling them, I'm happy to facilitate, but I would prefer not to, just because it can just get messy if something goes wrong and, when money's involved, that kind of thing. So if you do have a ticket or a bunch of tickets to the game this week and you find out for whatever reason midweek that you're not going to go, just get in touch and I'm sure I'll be able to find someone to take the tickets off you. It's actually a cool little cool little feature that's developed within the community. People giving away their tickets for free. It happened in the final series too.
Oh, good.
So yeah, mate, what else is going on with you? For those who weren't here a few weeks ago, Ed, got your own YouTube channel now, documenting or putting like a diary entry in after every game, we'll call it.
Yeah, honestly, Tez doing just a preview and a review of each game, and just sitting on this couch and yapping for about 15 to 20 minutes before and after each game, and just been very therapeutic. First of all, just to get that out of my system, the pre-game nerves, and also the post-game anxiety drop afterwards, and just really great to this online Carlton community, which is, I guess, part of a modern footy club. Is just so incredibly supportive, and there's so many good people out there who just want to talk footy or listen to footy. So Ed Bleeds Blue is the name of the channel. I don't know how long it took the marketing department to come up with that one, but yeah, mate, loving it, and obviously love coming on here and just talking footy.
Oh yeah, have a look. I'll get that link up. Hang on. So there's the link there. Yeah,
Thanks, kids.
I think 5-6 years ago there was criticisms about Carlton as a club to suggest that we were just behind when it came to innovation. And then I think when it comes to this sort of thing, the content side of things, digital side, or the digitization of the fan, maybe I'm just biased because I'm a Carlton supporter and there's so many Carlton shows and podcasts, but I do search for other channels when we come up against the opposition. I don't find more than 3 or 4 Instagram pages, generally speaking, for each club, the exception being Collingwood and Essendon, etc. I think we now sit at the forefront of that, which is fascinating. We've gone from being ultra conservative and stuck in the past to forward thinking and ahead.
You're absolutely right about the club. At least for a period of time, it just was viewed that one of the issues is that we weren't whatever this means, a modern club, and we were stuck in, dare I say it, sort of stuck in this 90s era where we had John Elliott as our president and we were a powerhouse, and we almost just were like living off those days. And now, as you're noting, it just sort of seems like we're fully embracing all the modern aspects of being the fan, and just what the club's doing on even just game day is just, absolutely top notch. And not all of it is for me, I'll be honest, but I still love seeing the club putting that much effort into the experience on game day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. That was short, sharp, and easy. Anything else on your mind before we wrap up for the evening?
Nah, mate. Just like I said, what a time to be alive, hey?
Yeah.
3-0, and it doesn't feel like that big a deal because just what we do. And yeah, really looking forward to this weekend. A bit more of a test, and I reckon we're up for it.
Yeah. I also want to re-highlight, mentioned it last night on the ratings. I love Media Watch, the new show that we've got going on.
That's awesome.
It's just good fun. No doubt in the next episode we will highlight this, even though it's been highlighted. But George Hewitt is in the third of his 4-year deal, which is looking like a bargain right now. Probably already has been. But yeah, I remember we got up a quote from Kane Corns when he was first signed, and he said, "I don't know what they were thinking, or I don't know why you would give George Hewitt a 4-year deal." And really, when you strip it back, these 4-year deals for a little less per year, but a little more in terms of length of contract, are really the reason why we have such a strong makeup on the list, in my view. I mean, the stars are the stars, the long-term deals are there. We've gone through them on the show before. But the profile of this list for this year and next year in particular is right where we want it to be.
Yeah, and I mean, this is an intangible, so it's difficult to measure. But surely, as a player, when you get offered a 4-year contract like that to a squad like ours, what we're basically saying is, we see you as part of our next premiership team, and that's got to get buy-in from players like Hewitt, who have come from another club where they've been in and out of the side. So I like the idea of having them commit for longer. And if it makes sense from a salary cap perspective per year, which it does, if you pay them less each year, sure. I mean, I don't see the problem with it.
Yeah, I have to play a sound because the chat's just getting into me about it. I need new sounds. I've added this new layer to the live shows, and people love it. I love it too.
Mate, just drop them in whenever you want to. Brilliant.
Absolutely. All right. So that's the end of the show. Almost Blues Brothers will be on straight after this. Now, update. So tomorrow, the Jumper Punch will be on at 7 p.m. as always on Tuesdays. There will be a slight adjustment. You will now be watching the Jumper Punch from the Jumper Punch YouTube channel. The main show, we're moving it to Tuesday night on the Jumper Punch YouTube channel. So want to make sure everyone's aware of that. Make sure you watch tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe. Get around them. The boys have done a phenomenal job, and they're ready. They're ready to graduate. They're ready to go and spread their wings and do their thing, particularly with their main show. You'll still see them here on the channel whenever you see them, fan cams, interviews, random spots. But we're going to shake up Tuesday nights a little bit, bring some new content on Tuesday nights on the BA channel, which you'll hear about in the next few weeks. But yes, the Jumper Punch tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the Jumper Punch YouTube channel. Make sure you get around it. Ed, it's been a pleasure. Love talking footy with you. I will continue to remind you of that. And thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tez. Thanks, team.
Go Blues.